Morning, fellow photographers. Today I have a quick, really good tutorial on basic adjustments in Lightroom and then adding a texturized overlay in Photoshop to give the image a rustic feel, as you can see. Guys, I'm really jazzed about this one. I'm really jazzed overall about just doing this and sharing my knowledge with everyone. And I got to share with you that one of the big reasons why I'm doing this is just my way of giving back to the community, because when I was an aspiring photographer, I relied a lot on YouTube and the tutorials that other photographers shared with me, and that has definitely formed me to who I am as a photographer. So this is just me kind of giving back my knowledge that I've learned over the years. So anyway, let's get to it. All right. So for today's shoot, I got a good one for you here. This is actually a shoot that I did when I first met my girlfriend, now my wife. We used to go down to Baja, Mexico, down to a little town called La Fonda, and we'd stay at the La Fonda Hotel, which is this great little Mexican rustic hotel right on the ocean, and they actually have some amazing waves for surfing there. So we used to frequent this area a lot, and on this particular time, I had my camera. We just decided to utilize this rustic room and have a little fun and do a shoot. And as you can see, really cool stuff. I mean, that like antelope hanging on the wall, the brickwork, the lamps, the mirrors, the tile work, the benches are amazing. Just the wooden frame on the wall. And then we actually went outside and did some shots outside as well. But so today's lesson, we will actually be working on this image right here. Okay. So this is out of camera. No adjustments yet, but that's what we're here for. We're going to make this image look good. So let's go over, first of all, let's go into the Develop module, and let's go all the way up here to our basic settings. And, you know, for me, I like warmness, so I always add a little more warmness than out of camera. My camera put it at 5,000 for white balance, so I'm going to bump that up to say, I'd say, why don't we go about 5450, and then tint, go to about, that's too red. Let's go to 0 on the tint. Okay, so first things first, the image to me is a little dark, and if we check out our histogram here, you can see all that data is just crunched over here to the left side, so we want to kind of center this up. So there's, multiple ways you can do this. You can actually go to the exposure slider and slide that physically. But another trick that I actually like is you can actually go right onto this histogram, and as you move across the histogram, you see we got our blacks here, shadows, in our exposure. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start off with right in that mid-range here, and I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to slide this whole histogram over till it kind of forms a nice bell shape. And obviously we're going to have this outshoot here because there's a lot of white in the image. But, so let's go to about right there looks good to me. All right, and then let's go down to the next, for contrast, I like the contrast the way it is. So I'm going to leave the contrast. And on today's lesson, I'm not going to even touch any of these highlight shadows, whites or blacks. We're going to keep it right as it is because I like that way that histogram's looking. So we can go right down here, and I'm going to add, I know a lot of people are probably going to yell at me for this, but I like adding a little clarity. So +9 on the clarity. And for this one, I'm going to bump up the vibrance, which will bump the saturation on most everything on the image, but not too much on the skin tones. And you know what? Let's go with a desaturated look on this. So I'm going to take, you notice I popped up the vibrance, then I'm going to take the saturation down. I'll take the sat to about -25. Then for a couple other settings, I'll leave the tone curve as is so we can actually minimize that. I'm not going to mess with any of the colors. Split toning, details, let's do that sharpen. Do the sharpen about 35, and then again, I always like using noise reduction, and you know, I shot this indoors, so the ISO on this is going to be right here. I shot it at 400 ISO, not bad. You can see my settings right here. You can get to this information here by just shortcut by pressing I for information, and as you see, it tells the date, the time. I can see when our date was. That was June 17th. Wow, almost 10 years ago. Pixel dimension, if you hit I again, then it actually will go into giving you some of the details on how it was shot. Shot at 250th of a second at 2.8, ISO 400 at 42 millimeter. So the camera that I used here at 400, it did have some noise issues, so I'll just put the noise reduction up to about 25. And then we will go down. We're not going to mess. Well, we can always hit this remove chromatic aberration. Sorry. That will get rid of any lines on any of the sharp, contrasted areas. Then we will go down to my favorite post-crop vignette. And on this, let's go. I don't want to go too much, but let's go to about a minus 12. And then we can change that midpoint to about a 25. Yeah. All right, we are good to go. Image is starting to get where I want, and I actually will up the. I'm going to up the shadows a little bit. And as you hit the shadows, you'll notice on the histogram, it'll kind of highlight the area it's going to affect. So you see the gray up here when I go to shadow. So once I bring that up, you'll see it brings in a little bit of detail. And I don't like to go too much on this because I like contrast. So plus 16, that looks good to me. All right. So now I'm going to go into the local adjustments. First, for a woman, the first local adjustment I like to do is by using this brush. So I go right in here in custom, and I've actually created some custom brushes for me, and it's right here called Skin Soften 2. And you can see basically all it does is takes the clarity down, which is going to give it a soft look, and then exposure, I just go up a tad. And sharpness, I don't know why sharpness is there. We want sharpness just to stay at 0. And then what I'll do is I'll enlarge this so I can get fine-tuned by hitting the Z on your keyboard, and it takes you right up. Now to move around, if you press the space bar, oh, it's not doing it today. Anyway, why is that not? Oh, there it goes. If you press the space bar, you'll get this hand, and then you can drag to what images you want, where you want to take the image to. So what I'm going to do is with the skin soften, I'm going to just go over her skin here, and you see it just does a slight little soften to it, and it brightens it up just a tad. And I will do that overall to all skin exposed. I'll enlarge the brush for her arm here, go down here, I'll even get her hand here, upper arm, and you see that by bumping up that exposure a little bit, how it brings out a little more detail. Okay, so there we go, that's skin. Now the next thing I like to do, so to go to a new brush, you just hit new right here. I'll go to my preset called Teeth Whitening. And her teeth are pretty white, but come on. If she's a paying client and I send her a picture and make her teeth slightly whiter, I think she's going to like it. Just subtle whitening. And then the last thing I do, a trick in fashion photography is always lightening. So I created this, it's called Iris Enhance. And Iris Enhance, I believe, is actually a preset that already comes in the brushes. So if I want to get a little closer to her eyes, you can go over here, right at the left here. You see this 1:1, you can go to 2:1, and it brings it in a little bit closer. And then make that brush small enough so you can lighten those eyes. All right. Starting to look good. And you know, as I look at it again, I think I'm going to bump up this exposure just a tad. To about, yeah, there we go, right. I like that. Okay, so now we can actually, this piece of paper here, I'm just looking at distracting things in the image, and one of the things that distracts me is this white piece of paper stuck on the door. So, you know, we have options. We can either, because we are taking this into Photoshop, we can remove it there, or we can remove it here. You know, I'll just remove it here for you just so you can see this tool right here. This is the spot removal. You can either do clone or heal. I have it on heal, so bring it over here, and all you do is you just kind of just go over that whole thing, and it's going to show you where it's cloning from, and you can move this around until you find an area where you just like the way it. I'll go right here and match that line across there. There you go. That's gone. Now let's open this in Photoshop and do some further magic. Okay, this is looking good. So first things first, you know, I'll probably piss off some people like doing this, but what I like to do, especially for women and how critical women, and I should just say everyone, men too, are just kind of overcritical of our appearance sometimes. So, you know, a good way, if this was a paying client and I wanted to ensure this was a boudoir shoot that she hired me for, trust me, her arm here, I mean, her arm looks great, but if that came in a little bit, she would never notice it, and she'd be a lot happier. So what I do is you go over to Filter, go over to Liquify, and here we are in Liquify. You choose this finger here, in the very top left, and then you choose the size of your brush there, and then see that little protrusion there? That's just all muscle, but she's gonna like me a lot. She's gonna like this image a lot more if I just bring that in a tad. There we go. And then also maybe that armpit there. So just accept that. So you just ever so slightly, and I'll show you the before and after. So it slightly brings that arm in. I think she's going to like that a little bit better. And that's all I'm going to do to this image because she's absolutely gorgeous naturally. So anyway, here we go to add an overlay. Very simple, guys. So the first thing you're going to need is a file, an overlay file. I'm going to use this file, and this is actually a photograph that I took, and it was paint that I actually found on a fishing boat down in Baja, Mexico. And the paint is just, you know, damaged by the sea, ocean, the air, and it was just painted over several times, and it was this beautiful turquoise color, but I turned it black and white because we didn't want the color. So here we are. You know, before I drag this over my other image, I might want to add a little contrast to this, or a sharpening. So let's go with sharpening first. We'll go to Filter, go to Sharpen, and then I'm going to go to Unsharp Mask here at the very bottom. And then from here, you see that it just kind of really bumped up the sharpness on here. Like this tool a lot, it gives you a lot of control between the amount, the percent, the radius, and the threshold. You can really fine-tune and get the sharpening to look like the way you want it. So kind of like that. So let's go with that. See before and after. It's just ever so slightly, but adds a little more detail to it. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take my Move tool, which is the shortcut V. Just hit the V key button. And then while holding Shift, I'm going to drag this file into the other, and it should overlay right on top of that file. Bada bing. So now we're over it. And what we do is we're going to change the layer mode here to, right now it's on normal, and you see it have all these different options. Now this is something you can experiment, but we can start off with overlay, and waha, gives it a very strong overlay effect over the whole image. Maybe a little too much. So we can experiment. Go from overlay, hit this soft light one, see what soft light does. I like that soft light a lot better. See, that's the overlay. So now what we want to do is we're going to customize. We obviously don't want that overlay over her skin. So we create a mask. On with the layer selected, overlay, hit the mask. And now this white, we're going to want to pick a black brush. And with this black brush, wherever we paint on that mask, that overlay is going to disappear. So as you saw, again, my brush is at 50, well, let me put it at 50%. And then we just gradually, sorry, come on 50. And I start slowly painting on the areas where I do not want that overlay shown. Now we'll get it off her hair too. Come over here, get it off these arms. Get it off her leg. Now, you don't have to be too critical. I mean, if you wanted to get super critical and just select her, you could, but for this, it's, you know, it's not imperative. You can see I can even go past her. And still, since I'm at 50% capacity, boom. Voila! Our masterpiece. Without the overlay, with the overlay. I love the overlay just because this hotel is so rustic as it is. And then this just really kind of gives it more of a rustic feel. Pulls the ends all together. So there we go. And oh, let me save that so we can see it side by side. So here we go, save. Let's go back to Lightroom and see how it looks side by side. Where are you at? All right, here we go. Let's look at the overlay. Without the overlay. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it was as much fun for you as it was for me. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, thanks for viewing. And please, if you like this, subscribe to my channel. Share it with other photographers. You know, I'm going to try to do really basic, short ones for the people that have ADD and can't sit through a video for longer than 5 minutes. And then I'm going to create some more in-depth workflow and all types of issues and topics that relate to photography. So again, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching and have a great day.